Hello and welcome to episode number 25 of Just Shillin'. I am one of your hosts, Sean. I had it prepared. I had it prepared in my head. Hold on, how does it go? HOFFMAN. You can call me Sean Hoffman. Sorry, I had to do that because I can't get that stupid Hot to Go song off my feeds. But yeah, I'm Sean Hoffman, one of your hosts, and across from me is the lovely.
And I'm a rather speechless Andy Bell at the moment. Good tune, mate. I love it. We should use a bit of AI and tidy that up a little bit and make something from that. But mate, how are you? I missed you.
Oh my god, dude, I missed you too. It's I'm all right. I'm better now. You're back. I'm interested to see how your vacation's been. I've been trying to survive the ridiculous heat that we have had over here. I so like normally, I live up in the mountains, so it's normally not super hot, but this last week it's been about 90 Fahrenheit, which is about 32 C. We don't have air conditioning or anything like that, like
No.
pretty consistently through the week. And so I think it's like been frying my brain a little bit. And yeah, then Thursday, I went to an outdoor festival in Sacramento, which is down from the mountains, like towards the coast more. It's in the Central Valley, or also known as the armpit of California. Sorry for anybody who lives there. And it was 113 at this festival, which is 45 C.
Screw that.
It was absolutely insane. It's the hottest weather I think I've ever. I mean, I've been to Death Valley and stuff and been on backpacking trips there, but this was an unreal heat. Like the venue and stuff was super good. They had water and like towels and fans and shade and all that stuff, but it was like a hair dryer blowing in your face the whole time. But
That's like
it was insane.
That's like Dubai heat. I mean, you don't. I've been very fortunate in that I've been out to Dubai a few times with work, but because with work, everywhere I went was air conditioned. And so it was palatable. But the minute you sit outside, you stand outside, and it's kind of like, holy shit, I'm sweating all the way through, all the way through my clothes, and there's no way there's no way back from this. Doing that at a social event that you're meant to enjoy, I'm okay, thank you. I mean, saying that, I mean, sorry.
The best part was that I think half the people who were going to go to the show didn't show up. So it was like this big festival kind of thing, but only like half the people were there. And
so you had room.
So you had tons of room and there was shade, but like it's one of those heats where it's like you don't want the wind to blow because then it's just blowing more heat at you. It's like, no, I don't want any wind because it brings no relief. But it was fun. I enjoyed it. I don't want to do it again anytime soon, but yeah, it was crazy. But other than that, man, I've just been I think I've taken on every outdoor project that I can think of all at once. I've got my
during warm weather. Good idea.
Yeah, it's like, you know what I should do? I should be outside, because that's the other thing about being in the mountains is that the UV index is like astronomical most of the time. So like all these times that I'm out there working, it's like, what's the UV index? 11. And for people who don't know, that's very high. I think it's called extreme on most levels, but so yeah, I think I've just been like frying my brain with the heat and just really kind of leaning into it. But other than that, man, not a whole lot. Just anxiously awaiting your return and excited to hear about your little adventures. How have you been?
Oh, it's been great. We got back at 3 this morning, so forgive me if I'm sounding a little bit delirious at the moment, but we completely milked the vacation we were on and got a very late flight last night to to make sure that we could stay as long as we could until we were forced to leave, kicking and screaming. It's great. It was superb. Yeah, 2 weeks. It's our annual pilgrimage to. We try and we try and be a diverse and inquisitive family, visiting many different places, but we always find our way to Portugal. We know the country, we know the people. We have access to a sailing boat down there, um, and as a family, it's our opportunity to switch off. So we try to, while we do try to experiment in many different countries, we always find our way back to Portugal, in particular the Algarve, which is the furthest south coast of Portugal, which is still on the Atlantic side, so it's not part of the Mediterranean. So it's balls hot during the day, and then really cool in the evening because you're
Nice.
on the Atlantic coast, so you get the Atlantic breeze coming in. Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. How can I explain what we do there when we're down there? We've been doing it now for crikey between 20-25 years now. So we have friends that are down there and that have a place down there. So we stay at their place, one of their places, sorry, which is very fortunate that we're in a position to be able to it being quite affordable. And we'll just bum about on the beach, eat really great food, drink really great drinks, and just chill and just really chill. And on top of that, that I was born and brought up in a place where sailing was a big thing as a kid. And we have the opportunity to sail as well as a family. And we just, with a mate of mine that lives down there, has his own boat, and we use that boat and we take it out and do our own thing and just bum around the Algarve for a few moments or so, and enjoy ourselves. And it's not hard. It's kind of rinse and repeat pretty much every
Mhm.
single day that we're there for 2 weeks. It's not, we try and get up late. We try and recuperate. We try and read. We try and enjoy ourselves. We try and enjoy the nightlife. We enjoy. Well, I certainly enjoy the sailing side of things, and it's an awful lot of fun. There's not an awful lot to tell you about because like I said, it's pretty much the same thing every single day. But that's why we do it. We know the place really well. While in my career, I've been very lucky to visit many countries and many different places and many different cultures. Um, we like it because it's so predictable. Um,
Mhm.
it's so predictable over there, and if the stars align one day and you guys are over here, and it aligns itself when we're on vacation as well, I'd love to take you down there because you'd love the atmosphere. It's just it's so manana. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yeah, yeah.
so manana. Um, Wake up in the morning. What do you want for breakfast? Should we go out for breakfast? Yeah, let's go out for breakfast. Is it wrong to have a Bloody Mary at 8:30 in the morning? No, I don't think so. Let's have a Bloody Mary at 8:30 in the morning.
Tattoo.
It's just yeah. Oh, yeah. Funny you say that. The place that we found a new place this year for breakfast, and yeah, they were basically doing pints of Bloody Mary. Like,
Love it.
yeah, I'm coming back, and we went back 4 times. So yeah, it was a good break. It really good. Had no access to the internet. My phone coverage was next to zero, especially when we were out on the water.
The best.
So that it was I mean, you got to get over that kind of initial um, shock of not being in contact with the world,
Mhm.
which lasts for me about at least 2 or 3 days. 'Cause it's like in my job and in our lives, we have access to everything all at once, and then having to realize that you only have access to the rest of the world at 2 or 3 times a day is a little bit weird. But we've got, kind of got used to it now, and hopefully we're pretty good at managing expectations from folk that want to hear from us. But yeah, no, it was good, man. It was really, really good. And it was hot, it was hot. I mean, so
Hmm.
most days for us it's about 31, 32. But unlike you, it was we weren't working. We were just enjoying
Yeah.
ourselves. So it wasn't that
Yeah.
big a deal. It wasn't that big a deal at all. So you get sweaty for 2 weeks. Who cares?
Do you
Plenty.
sail? Are you sailing in the Atlantic, or is it like a bay or something like that that you're kind
No,
of?
it's in the Atlantic. It's the so if you consider the Portugal is, if you like, the furthest western country of
Mm,
Europe, of Europe, not including, obviously, not Africa, and but I mean, Sagres is very close to where the boat is moored permanently, and so we are in the Atlantic, and
cool.
sometimes we may well go around the Cape towards the west coast of Portugal, but mostly we stay on the Algarve, which is the south coast, which, despite being, if you look at a map, the same area as the Mediterranean, we're still in the Atlantic part of it. We haven't we haven't got to mainland, if you like, the main part of Europe at that moment in time. So yeah,
I'm
it's
looking at a
it's
map, and it's
the the
you're
seas.
that's out there.
I
You're.
mean,
It makes my hands sweaty looking at it. It's like,
yeah,
whoa,
the
that's
sea.
that's
Put it this way:
open.
the sea. It's warm. It's delightful. It's windy, which makes the sun a lot easier to put up with. But I tell you what, the sea is bastard cold. It's really, really cold. If you get too hot, you jump in. You very soon get out because it is really, really cold. It is the Atlantic Ocean, so you are very much subject to the temperatures of the Atlantic Ocean, as opposed to more of a mill pond, which is the Mediterranean.
That's so interesting because over here the Atlantic is the Gulf of Mexico is the very very warm one. The Atlantic is warm, and the Pacific is the one that is just
Well, it's the
dumbass
biggest,
cold.
right? Yeah, it's the biggest,
Yeah,
right? And you don't have, unless you have a huge amount. I'd say unless you went, I don't know. I'm trying to think of where I've been in the Pacific where it's actually been warm. I can't
probably
think of
Southern
anywhere.
California, probably Southern California
I can't
as
think of
a or
anywhere.
Mexico. Yeah.
No, the actual sea itself. Yeah. I mean, I haven't done Mexico yet, so yeah, you could be right. But even then, the whole tidal thing and the way it all
Mm.
works, I don't know, man. I have no
Well,
idea at all.
if you ever make your way out here, we'll have to have you come swimming in an alpine lake, and we'll show you what some cold water feels like.
Fuck
It's good.
yeah, no,
It's
yeah. But
it's good for your
I've seen.
joints.
Yeah, you showed me a sailing as well, though. Your sailing out there looks really cool. So I'd love to, do that stuff. I mean, the the lakes. I mean, the Great Lakes themselves, and I the whole idea of that is very, very new to me. Um, Not new to me, but very alien to me.
Mm,
Um, my experience of lake sailing is very, very different to ocean sailing until you get to until you reference the US and the Great Lakes, and I mean, it's pretty much no different to the sea. They're huge. They're absolutely
oh yeah,
huge.
absolutely massive. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I had a really good time. Missed you an awful lot. Found it really weird that I wasn't connected to you guys until the evening. And then
Mm,
in the evening, we were pretty much moored up, and we pretty much, it's ironic actually, there's pretty good 5G coverage in most of mainland Europe. And so therefore was pretty easy to get hold of you. But yeah, it was really weird that I couldn't kind of interact uh, on the cusp or on the fly.
yeah.
as I normally would do, which I found a little bit weird. But in the meantime, I was busying myself with doing nothing. So
So I know
no, it was pretty good.
so I know when we go backpacking, which we do quite a bit, we'll go out and no cell service, no anything. Um, we typically like to do it around election time specifically, and other times of year, because we don't want to deal with it, so we just want to come back and get the results. Um, do you find it overwhelming when you do come back to service, and then all of a sudden you just see like the role unfolding of like I'm a big person who's like I just don't want the red circles with the numbers in them. I don't want the badges. I don't want the notifications. Like do you find it overwhelming to like catch up, or do you just like mark all as red and be like, if it's more important, it'll come back up again, or do you try to like catch up on everything?
I used to, I used to care an awful lot, but I think I told you, maybe not on this pod, but privately, this is the first year I haven't taken a laptop with me.
Hmm.
Um, and that was conscious effort on my part, just to, yeah, I feel like we work hard at work
Hmm.
and we give, they get a pound of flesh from us. And maybe it's my age, maybe it's my experience, maybe it's my belligerence. I got no idea what it is, but this is the first year that I didn't take my laptop with me. And so therefore, when I did connect with the world, um, when I was back on dry land, I wasn't bothered. I
Hmm.
wasn't bothered at all. Um, not I even used to find myself segmenting the mails that I've missed, especially when it was work related, to whether it was urgent, non-urgent, or I could delete it. I used to do that for myself so that when I got the day that I get back from work, which is for me now is tomorrow, I used to kind of have everything already organized for me.
Hmm.
But in doing that in itself was work in itself while I was away, and
Yeah.
I shouldn't be doing that. And so I'll worry about that tomorrow. So in my mind for tomorrow, I'll let everyone know I'm back, but I'm doing the work that I normally would have done when I'm away tomorrow.
Hmm.
Um, and then I'll kind of work it out from there. I'm in a very different place these days than I was. Um, well, you know, as short as last year, but certainly in the last 4 or 5 years, I'm in a very very different place in my life, and what will be. And if crikey, if the world can't carry on, or sorry, my world can't carry on while I'm away for a couple of weeks, then I'm not doing a very good job in the first place.
No, it makes sense. Cool.
But yeah, no, it's cool, man. It was really, really cool. And I mean, I've shared with you guys a bunch of photographs, and I'll work out, our websites that I can share a few photos as well. It was blissful. It was blissful. It was just the four of us. It was Lucy and I, Lucy, my wife, and I, and the two kids. Sorry, not kids anymore. They're my two no, not girls anymore. My two daughters came with us as well. What was marvelous is that because we've been doing it for so long, they know the area as well as well as we do, and so that it wasn't a case of a family on tour together or on holiday together for 2 weeks, and you have to
Yeah.
do your own. You have to come together, do everything as a foursome. These guys know the area really well. They drive. They're independent. They've got their own money and the rest of it. They go off and do their own thing, and
Hmm.
it made the whole for me this year. It really meant a lot more this year that they kind of did go and do their own thing, which meant the time they spent with us was a lot more meaningful and wholesome, if you like. Because I mean, like I said, they'd take us out a few nights, and it's like,
Yeah.
can we buy dinner
Like,
tonight? It's like, wow, that's
but you don't
I
have to be a
didn't kind of
host. You don't have to be a
expect that.
host the whole time.
No, it wasn't like that. It was just like
Yeah.
it was almost like a bunch of friends getting together and having a chill time. And if one person didn't like the agenda for today, which was, like I said, it was relatively binary, um, it was okay for them to do their own thing because they know the area, or they've known the area over 20 years. So it's really cool. And I do implore anyone. I know that our Aussie friends, Josh in particular, um, loves Portugal. They're such good people. They're such good people. They know how to cook. I mean, good God, I've eaten the most amazing food the last 2 weeks to my detriment, and I'll work it off the next couple of weeks. I promise. But they know how to live life. Yeah, no, it's when I'm old, warty, and can't move anymore, cart me off over there in a box, and I'd love to spend the rest of my days over there. Great place.
That's awesome. Well, I'm sure Madison will listen to this and be like, well, so when are we when are we going to Portugal?
Oh, if you do, I'm coming with you. I'm coming with you.
So
Sorry.
one of the things that we have been doing, I totally forgot about is so last year Madison hiked the PCT, the Pacific Crest Trail,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is a continuous trail from Mexico to Canada for those who don't know. But it crosses through Tahoe. Like Tahoe's kind of one of the stops on it. So every year, right around there's like a bubble of people who do this, and the bubble is currently kind of here. And so people need a lot of hitches off trail into town, and we'll host people who need somewhere to stay, or if they just need they need to get to the doctor or go to wherever. So like we'll go and pick them off the road and bring them into town and take them wherever. But there are a lot of like international people doing it, and so like it's a part of it's kind of selfishly. It's like, oh, we're making more friends over from Germany or from Sweden or Albania or whatever. So, getting those connections of like, oh, where can somebody else we can keep in contact with. So it's like, oh, I need to start looking out for, Portugal people too, and they're like, hey,
But how
where
cool
you
is that?
from?
Yeah, but how
It's pretty
cool is
cool.
that? That is
It
so cool.
is.
I mean, it's such a with what's all the shit that's going on at the moment. I don't want to get into politics, and I mean, while I've been away, we had an election in the UK that turned out right royally brilliant for me, from my perspective and my outlook on life. But quite frankly, there's so much, hate and intolerance going on at the moment in other places of the world, and it's just like meeting other people from different cultures that kind of can understand you, because you know what it's like.
Mhm.
We are Caucasian English speaking people. We people will accommodate for us, and
Yeah.
it's embarrassing that they do. It's really embarrassing that they do, and we make absolutely fuck all effort. But the point being is that they still make that effort, and that
Mhm.
they have amazing cultures of their own. I just think that Jesus wept. I mean,
Well, that's the
John.
best part is like you'll meet some of these people and like, and they always want to pay for gas or whatever, and like we never let them. But one
Sure.
thing that seems to be really prevalent anymore is like, oh, can we at least like cook you dinner from our culture? And it's like
Oh,
100%, 100%. Like
fuck me, yeah.
you have to deal with our shitty kitchen, but like go for it, hell yeah. And so we've had some pretty amazing. I mean, meals just made on a budget, but it's still like, wow, that's freaking awesome. And then leftovers for days and stuff, and just really, really. I mean, the gratitude goes all around. It's like, all we're doing is driving 3 miles or 5 miles
Yeah,
to pick
but
somebody
it's
up
the
off and
right.
bring them in
It's
town.
the
But it's
but
the
dude, it's the
getting
attitude.
to eat somebody's culture is amazing.
It's the attitude you guys have got. It's completely the right way of doing it. And I'm not being I'm not being a lefty. I'm not being liberal. I'm not being just being decent. It's just like we've only got one chance at this shit. There's no rerun.
Yeah.
We've only got one chance in life, and it's kind of just like making the most of it. I love it. I absolutely love it. Anyway, sorry, bud. As we go on our
No.
existential journey, but so right, dude, I have. Let me. I'm trying to remember the way that we normally do this because it's been 2 weeks now, so I'm trying to work it all out. But I don't have any notes for this evening because just because. However, I wanted to tell you what I have been on a pop culture front, because I still am readily involved as best I can. Um, I have been doing a few things. So I had no internet. The only internet I had was in the evening, and it was on my cell phone. And so I used my phone plan or my data plan to download the latest episode of Good God, what year are we living in? For The Acolyte, which I've sent you a couple of voicemails for, to be continued on that conversation. Anyway, however, so what I did was I used the airport's Wi-Fi, download a couple of things that I could use as media to come back and report to you as to what I've done. So in terms of news, what I've found out in my relatively restricted environment that I found myself in the last couple of weeks, Blade Runner 2099 is the name of the new series that's being developed, and it started filming. So this is the new TV series that leapfrogs over Denis Villeneuve's
Mhm.
latest film by 50 years, and it's being filmed, and it has become, so it's an actual thing, which I think is great,
Nice.
and it links to something else in a second. But that's the news that I've heard. Second thing that I've heard about is there's an animated series for Terminator, the Terminator franchise. Terminator Zero animated series is coming out on Netflix during August. I had no idea this thing was a thing, but that's coming out
I
in August.
I look forward to getting invested in that than having it get canceled after one season. That's per
Yeah,
Netflix's the Netflix way.
yeah. I hope not. I hope not. Um, After what I'm going to talk about later on, but yeah. Um, Gladiator 2 trailer. So that came
Yes.
out last week. Um,
Yes.
seen a few mares and a few. Well, it's a film that we didn't need, but I got quite excited by the trailer. And being that it's my youngest daughter's favorite film of all time, Gladiator, the original Gladiator, we're quite fired up for it in the Bell household, and quite enjoyed the trailer. It seems to be a. It's either. It seems to be a spin-off. Oh, sorry. It seems to be about legacy. So it seems to be a. It's either about Marcus's son or the son of the emperor. I'm not quite sure what it
Mm.
is yet, but the point being is that that looks quite good. And the last thing I saw in terms of news was the Time Bandits trailer. So
Mm.
um, our buddy he's doing he's doing a take on Time Bandits, but I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure how I feel about it, because the original, which is obviously Terry Gilliam, part of the very British Monty Python kind of sense of humour, um, is so close to my heart that I'm not sure what a Taika film would, or series, sorry, would, how it could improve it. It looks very,
Mhm.
very different, and it looks like very much like Taika's sense of humour. But and I'm up for it. I'm really, really up for it, because new takes on properties that I love.
Mhm.
I'm not a naysayer. I'm up for it, but I don't know how I feel. And in terms of news, that's pretty much all I've been able to pick up on in 2 weeks. What about yourself?
I think the big one for me was one I saw yesterday or whenever. Um, I saw the new Captain America trailer. Um,
Ooh,
and I am I mean, you know how it is these days. There's just the shit comments and that stuff just filtered to the
yeah.
top. So I know there's a lot of like perceived negativity around it, but I'm excited for it. I think um I've always been like the Captain America films were always one of those ones where like at surface level, I was never like I never saw them in the theaters. Like I got on the Marvel train like way too late. But like they are the ones that I've always been like, those are top tier for me because I think it's less about the technology or like the superpower and more about the story, and it forced it into that. And so those have always been like my favorites. Like
Yeah,
Winter Soldier and Civil War are just like those are probably my favorite Marvel movies.
yeah, they're no, they are world class along with the original Captain America as well. They're really grounded. They're quite gritty. They're really
Mhm.
quite grounded. Yeah, I'm with you there, mate. We share the same taste.
Other than that, like yeah, so I'm excited for that. Harrison Ford's in it. He looks cool. Um, yeah, I'm excited to see that. Other news, I know that they're ramping up promotion for the Star Wars open world, the Outlaws game. So that's exciting. Nothing, I don't think there's anything too concrete with it yet. At least that I can share that you won't find on other more newsworthy pods. Um, they what else was there news wise? Uh, it's not really news, but I got to watch a live like helicopter rescue demonstration on the lake on 4th of July. So that's kind of news. And so that was super cool. Um, that was fucking sick. Um, I don't think, I mean, I don't think I have any other news. I'm just like looking around at things like, is there anything that was news that should try to jog my memory? But
On the
I mean,
Star Wars front, I heard from so I sorry, full disclosure to everyone. I say everyone that's sorry, our two listeners that are listening at this moment in time. Full disclosure, I recorded a response this week to the latest episode of The Acolyte, and then subsequently we're going to use that tonight a little bit, and we'll explain later on as to how we're going to use that. But obviously, there's been an awful lot of podcasts that have happened since I recorded my response, and one of those podcasts is obviously the Sith List, and one of the things I wasn't aware of that I did pick up in terms of news from Eric was that apparently there's pretty much confirmation through a role that's being advertised over at Lucasfilm for an animator for a new Star Wars animation series. Now, it's not an awful lot of news, and Eric very clearly explains that there's not an awful lot of context to it, or indeed proof as to what the animated series will be. But the fact that
mhm.
we're getting more of it, I think, is pretty awesome. We can speculate another day as to what we think it might be. We can speculate as to or we can, we can create a wish list as what we hope it might be. But that's the only other thing that I picked up as noteworthy, if you like, in terms of news.
Nice. That's awesome. I'm looking forward to, I mean, I love that we like there's a lot about the world and like our connectedness that is not always the best, but the fact there is kind of like that like glimmer a little bit of like the fact that people monitor like patents and trademarks, or they monitor the job
Oh, I love
postings,
that
the job
stuff.
listings. And it's just
Oh,
like
I
it's
love
so
that
funny that
stuff.
there's like so niche, but like you just get nuggets of things. And like yeah, there's a lot of people who spin it for like negative stuff of like, oh, we're getting an animated show in 6 months. It's like, well, I mean, that's not that. I mean, it's a
It's
little bit how
it,
the sausage is made, but it's kind of fun though at the same
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah. It's a bit like how now I mean, I don't collect anything like I used to collect, but it's a little bit like how Yakface could identify a product code um, on
Yeah.
a Target website as to what that will be in terms of a new Black Series figure that may or may not come out, and pretty much he's been spot on in terms of it's that kind of forensics. I think is phenomenal, and it's kind of it kind of lost. I feel a bit disappointed that we've lost that kind of enthusiasm, and that kind of investigation, and seem to be defending ourselves against unnecessary bullshit, hate again. But yeah, it's I love that kind of stuff. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Speaking of
Very, very
Yak
cool.
Face, there was a piece of news that HasLab Cantina set got funded. Out of the
Yes, I saw that.
8,000 that it needed, it got almost 15,000 backers. Which
Did it get all the
like
tiers? All the other tiers?
I don't think it got all of them. Beep, beep, beep.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. When you, I mean, when you think about it, when you think about something as iconic as the sail barge, you know, I'm thinking about the stuff that I would have if I don't know, if I went through an emotional divorce or something and I had disposable income. You know, the sail barge, you know, the Razor Crest, and soon to be the Ghost as well. These are iconic. A playset? Perhaps I wouldn't have thought it would have been as much of a. There wouldn't be as much demand for it, but seeing that they
I was shocked.
Yeah, no, and great and brilliant. You know,
yeah.
That is them, and that is them reading their market properly for the first time. Reading their market, you know, not for the first time. Sorry, that's unfair. But you know, reading their market, and understanding what their fans want and getting it right is phenomenal. I mean, the whole. I still feel gutted to this day about, you know, the whole shame around what they did with the Rancor, when there was property or there was entertainment only a couple of weeks away that could have really leveraged that to make it work. And it's like, oh God, you need to, you know, make sure your left hand and your right hand is communicating. Sorry, you were saying
it got
did
all the tiers except for one. It did not get the 17,000 tier, but all that was like the Wolfman looking dude. But it did get the four-armed robot looking thing. I'm not gonna.
Oh, the one with the gas mask.
Yeah, and it got the Greedo. And
if they've already done the Wolfman as a mold, I'm sure it'll come out as a single.
Just like they do with all the others, like the Ghost, where they're like,
exactly.
Oh, you get these. It's just an exclusive card back and stuff, but the figures will still come out anyways. At some point.
That's really cool. I'm really, you know, maybe their research team are doing the right thing, you know, and listening. I would still like to see more stuff on Black Series though. As an original 3.75 inch collector, you know, I'd love to see them really work out something quite smart for Black Series in Pulse.
I'd love to see somebody do maybe a crowdfunding or whatever it takes. I would love for somebody to kind of step into that niche that I currently fill with mod. Like, I love building models, you know that.
Yeah.
But like even the three, like the vintage collection scale is too big for ships. Like, the ships are massive. Like, I would love to see somebody step into that, like, crowdfunded, highly detailed ship space, but at a very small scale, kind of like the Micro Galaxy Squadron stuff that I always harp on, but do it at an adult collector kind of level, whether it's crowdfunding or whatever. I think that would be super interesting to see how it goes. Like at the 172 scale or 144, maybe, whether it's like metal or the highly detailed plastic or whatever it is. I think that'd be kind of sick.
Yeah, no, I agree. So you're saying over-index on it and make it a little bit more expensive for something that's going to actually be worth people jumping into, and I kind of get that. And it's I know there's guys like Jedi Collecting and Fly Guy in particular that I follow. That are, Fly Guy in particular is somewhat, or seems to be somewhat, demotivated by Black Series in recent years, and I understand it, and I really don't understand it, because it seems to be what should be the premium end of collecting. Um, um, they don't seem to have as much ingenuity, because at the premium end, tooling costs so much. It costs so much. Tooling and painting costs so much. And I would love to see them jump in and try again, like they did with the Rancor, and try again with something that is designed for Black Series, but not necessarily think about it sitting on the shelf as being more sculptural, more something that you would have as a sculpture, or have as to your point, have as a work of art, because the scale is just way too big to be on the shelf along with the rest of our crap that we have on our shelves.
Well, think more like a HasLab or a direct, like an order direct kind of Hasbro Pulse kind of thing. Instead of putting them on the shelves at every store, and then you have all the peg warmers. It's like, because I will say, I think the best things that come out of the Black Series are the holiday repaints. I love those things. I think they're hilarious. I think they're awesome.
Yeah, I know.
Especially the new Halloween one. I think they're funny. But if they did more like, because everybody wants the niche characters, even the vintage collection stuff. It's I think there's an opportunity for both sides, for consumers and for businesses, to move to that model. I mean, because I go to my local Walmart or Target, like, it's not local. I have to drive a ways to Carson City to see it.
Yeah,
but I'm always like, oh, I wonder what's going to be in there, and it's just, there's nothing. Like, and I think that kind of kicks you out of the, like,
yeah.
I got out of the Black Series already, anyways, because I had too many of them, and it's like, I'm just getting a bunch of junk. But if they had cool stuff that they invested in, and maybe I could get it directly and get the things that I want. It's kind of like buying a car. It's like, I want a certain car with these features and this color. Like, I wish I didn't have to go to a dealer to talk to them and get hassled and get a car I don't really want. If I could just get it made to order or whatever, and then have it arrive when it's done, that'd be very nice. We're just not there yet.
And that's why I find the customs the custom. I mean, the work that I would say the more commercial side of what you, Ed, and Chris do. And I need to shout out, actually. I'm really sorry. We haven't even got to what I've been listening to yet. I did listen to your episode last week with the boys, and I appreciate you holding the fort while I was away, and B, I thought it's a fascinating area that you guys are involved in, and I wish I had the inclination, the patience, and also the ability to be able to do what you guys do. But to that point, and we'll talk about a little bit about that later on. But to that point, the idea of using Black Series to create something rather special, I think would be a really sound strategy for Hasbro. And I think about when the sequels were launched. The Disney era was launched. And I think about the vehicles, for example, that came with Ray, that with Enfys Nest, were big, but they were relevant, and they were affordable, and they were the appropriate size. They tried to be quite venturous with the TIE Fighter, the first order TIE Fighter, and it was a big piece of work. So it kind of, you're naturally going to exclude an awful lot of people because of the size of it. And so, to your point, the idea of build to order, and just keep it going. And unfortunately, it will be more expensive, but it will be based on demand, I think is really quite smart. I would love, on the floor of my room, not on the shelf because it's too big, I would love a 12-inch scale, a 6-inch scale ATST with Chewie in it. I mean, that for me would be fundamentally mind-blowing to have in my house. The size of it would mean it would need to sit on the floor. And so, therefore, I think that Hasbro need to kind of readdress A, their market, B, the accessibility and the affordability of their demographic, or demographics in plural, sorry. But also kind of, rather than to your point, rather than make it HasLab, make it build to order, which if that means potentially adding $100 on top of the price, then so be it. But at least you're not shafting your own business model, and you can, you can accommodate it. But yes, sorry. To my point was that in the meantime, you've also got an awful lot of people that are building this stuff themselves and making files available for anyone that's got a laser printer or and I'm seeing some amazing stuff out there at the moment, with folk that are building some pretty good screen accurate stuff to accommodate 6-inch Black Series figures, which are impractical in most people's houses, but it's accessible to folk that are able to either print their own or buy the parts and build it themselves. God, that was a long one. Didn't expect to go down that way.
We got to fill the content somehow,
Yeah, I know. So listen very quickly. I have been relatively, when it goes down to what we've watched, listened to, or read, my itinerary has been quite restrictive for obvious reasons. What I did was I downloaded Blue Eye Samurai from the airport Wi-Fi, and I have to say that I've listened to folks like Randy and Les and Iraj at the Sith Les talking about it being great, the best animated series they've seen for quite a while, and I have to agree, it's pretty damn amazing. And I implore anyone that hasn't seen it yet to watch it, especially if you, like us, like Shogun, you like the whole Japanese cultural style of things, a little bit of mysticism on top of it, but with some very, very acute, or some, sorry, not cute, but cute nudges, or how can I put this? Some very cute pokes at imperialism during that time. I thought it was amazing. It's not my, and I'm hoping one day we'll get Hawes on this on the pod, and we'll talk about our favorite animated series. It's not my number one, but it certainly is very close to my number two at the moment. It's a really, really great series, and I'm so glad I had it on my phone while I was away. Luckily, I've got that gigantus phone that you keep ridiculing me for, so it was quite good to have that available to me. What I've been listening to is as many pods as I can get my hands on. I listened to you guys last week. I'm so stoked for you guys to get together and talk about your art stuff. I don't think you covered half of what you guys need to talk about, but I'm really chuffed that we've started that conversation with the boys. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Ed. Your insight, but your insight as well, Sean, is just phenomenal. And you guys talk about techniques like that just blow my head off. And so I listened to that and really enjoyed it. Listening, of course, to the guys over at Star Wars Spelt Out, covering the with their coverage as quickly as they can on the Acolyte series. Gutted I can't join. I haven't been able to join them the last couple of weeks, but listening to that as well and really enjoying that. Our buddy Rick was on a pod recently with Catherine's own podcast, which was brilliant.
that was a really good podcast.
No, it was really good because they got into some really deep stuff without kind of the normal bro jokery that we normally do with amongst ourselves, and I thought it was really really, really deep, and I love his take on Andor as well. And then reading, you know that I hammered a few, or I bought a few graphic novels to go out because I don't know what it is. I'm on the beach and it's like, do I want to read a book or do I want to read a graphic novel? And I read a bunch of graphic novels, and it aligns itself quite nicely with the latest news on Blade Runner 2099 being in production. There is a series of books or a series of graphic novels published by. One second, sorry. Published by Titan, and they've kind of done an ancillary set of graphic novels alongside the original Blade Runner series from Blade Runner Origins, which is based in 2009. They got a Blade Runner 2019, 2029, then 2049. They've got a whole bunch of graphic novel series that I've started getting into, and they're really, really good. On top of that, despite the fact that I may not like the director or the creator, I've got back into reading a few more of the Firefly, the original Firefly or Serenity graphic novels that came out. I love that series, and I feel grieved that I like that series, despite the fact that I don't necessarily appreciate or respect the creator. I love that series, and I've been getting I'm bringing myself up to date on some of the graphic novels that were being launched over the last couple of years by Boom Comics, which have been good. And there's another couple as well, but they're the main things I've been watching, listening to, and reading over the last 2 weeks while I've been away. What about yourself?
So it's been a weird like week or so. Like just kind of with the I seriously think I've had like brain fog from the heat or something. I don't know what it is. So since the latest episode of The Acolyte, I have not listened to any of our friends' podcasts. I don't know if out of like solidarity of like wanting to talk to you about it before getting influenced by other people, or just something, I don't know. But I since I've been doing all that outside work and stuff, I have been catching up on a lot of past episodes of the Sackhoff Show.
Oh,
And
wow.
like, 'cause I listened to a couple of them for a while, but then I when I went on that trip and stuff, a lot of them piled up. But I've been catching up on them, and I've been really enjoying some episodes more than others, but I've been really enjoying that show. Um, they're just the openness that I think some people come on with is very, very interesting and very a fresh take, especially when it kind of relates to some of the stuff that we're doing, like some of our interests and things like that. So I do recommend that.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question? I mean, you know, I've been listening to it for quite a while, and I find that, and I hope I'm not out of order saying this, but I find that my enjoyment of the show is dependent on the guest, which
Absolutely,
sounds
100%.
ridiculously obvious, but I do find when Katie is leading the discussion herself, it can be somewhat self-absorbent, or it can be somewhat. Does that even make sense? It can
No, it
be.
makes sense.
It
Yeah.
can be somewhat focused on her, which is not the point in my mind of the interview. And when she has a really engaged guest that leads her through the interview as opposed to the other way around, it's a heck of an episode. It really is.
Yeah, and I think a big piece of that is it's not that there's anything wrong with Katie
No.
or her stories, but it's like, but if she's leading, it gets repetitive on what's going on with her and her
Yeah.
life and her stories and her beliefs, which I think that's not just a Katie Sackhoff thing. I think it's an any podcast thing. I think when she has a more engaging guest, I think she does a fantastic job at kind of amplifying like their story, their narrative, and what makes them interesting. Like the guy who's the stunt person for the Mandalorian, and
Oh shit!
he's
The one that
he was talking about
yeah yeah yeah
he was
yeah.
talking about CTE and all the traumatic brain injuries. I mean, he was all over the place. But I thought that interview was very interesting uh, to listen to, and all the stuff that came out of it. And while others maybe take more of a backseat, and it's not as interesting, because that's what you're there for. The guests are the reason that you're listening, and trying to get something out of them. So if they're not as, I think it's less of a Katie issue and more of a guest issue of like, if they're not coming in and willing to share, or
Yeah.
for most cases, I think overshare in a lot of ways, then I think the episode suffers. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying, 100%.
Yeah, no, I enjoy it. I enjoy it, and I there are episodes that will stand out for me. Um, you know, in particular, I really enjoyed her episodes. I'm gonna get these names right if it kills me. With Trisha Helfer,
Mm,
who played Seven in the original Battlestar Galactica, and oh, on that point, Rick and Catherine, you are not going to talk about Battlestar Galactica without me. I'm coming for you, whether you like it or not. And we're going to talk about Battlestar Galactica together because I frigging love that show. Anyway, um, but not only her, but with the Kevin Smith episode. Kevin
mm,
Smith turned the entire episode round to be interviewing her, which I thought was
mm.
phenomenal and really clever. He's the only one that's been able to do that. And she was quite okay to let it ride that way. But honestly, the guy absolutely ran that one. Ming Na Wen, I loved that episode. That was the first one I jumped on for, and then went backwards from
Yeah.
from that particular episode because I love Ming Na so much. Sorry, I love the complete audacity of that woman, and her courage, and her. I just love her. She's got more conviction than many different people, or many actors that I admire. And as a result, is one of my faves. But anyway, no, it's a great show. And but when she finds more of a mate than a colleague to
Hmm.
interview, I find it a little bit self
Yeah.
self-serving and a little bit, just occasionally a little bit. I wouldn't say dull, but monotonous,
Monotonous.
repetitive, monotonous. There you go. Words. Who needs words? But yeah, all good. Anything else, mate? Yeah.
um, I've started
Cheers.
reading the. I started reading the Rise and Fall of the Galactic Empire. Um, it just recently came out, and like the premise intrigued me. Kind of written from a historical narrative. I'm like 10 pages in, but the idea, since it's not connected, it's not like High Republic or anything like that, where I feel like I have such a mountain to catch up on. Um, just kind of stepping into this book, I feel is a lot easier.
Is
So
it
I've
heavy
started
going?
that. I mean, I'm only 10 pages in, but it doesn't feel like it.
No, what I'm saying
It's
is, is it kind of like? I mean, what I'm used to is kind of like a picture book with.
no, no, it's got a lot of words. It is, it is
Damn it! Damn it!
mostly sentences, paragraphs, chapters, uh, black ink on white paper, kind of thing. It seems pretty light. It's almost like, I don't want to call it a parody, because that's not what it is, but it's written in the style of like a historical retrospective. I mean, I'm only 10 pages, but there are times where it seems very very self-aware of like the happenings of the Skywalker saga, things like that. But it's I know it's kind of like the initial like introduction to the book, but it does seem interesting to kind of like see it written in that way. So I will report back as I read more. Um,
Cool.
I have not watched anything. Um, besides an absolute ton of YouTube, I've been listening to a lot of music. I think these recent concerts and stuff have kind of got me going on like a music kick and just spending a lot of my time with my headphones on doing. Maybe that's why I'm outside doing all that stuff. Just doing mundane tasks that I've needed to do for a while. So not a lot of content getting watched right
That's
now.
cool.
And plus I think it's been hard with the hikers and stuff coming in and out. Being like, hey, you wanna watch some random show that you've because these people have been out on trail for months. A lot of them been out since like March or April. Um, and so they're not connected to anything. So I don't want to be like, hey, have you watched The Acolyte? And they'll be like, I don't know, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Um, so I think that's also been having an effect on like my content consumption. Um, but it's changed. It's summer and things like that. I did I did get to go to the beach and watch that helicopter thing, which is still freaking cool. I'm watching like a C-130 fly over like super low and dropping flares and like it just a Fourth of July demonstration thing. So there's been
Did you
that was
have
pretty
all
cool.
of the? I'm assuming. Sorry, here I am making assumptions, and I don't know. But I'm assuming in Tahoe there's a lot. It's a little bit more low key for July the 4th, or is it? Do you have all the fireworks? Do you have the guys blowing themselves up and all that shit?
So fireworks are banned in California because our entire state is like a giant tinderbox, and so
Yeah.
we tend to get set on fire a lot. But considering we're like 3 miles away from the state line of Nevada, which is a fun historical thing of like, oh, Lake Tahoe was supposed to be California, but a surveying error ended up drawing the state line like right through kind of through the middle of it. State Nevada doesn't care. They have fireworks. So we all just sit on the California side and look across the lake and watch the fireworks that are just over the lake.
Seriously?
Uh yeah.
It's as
Yeah, we
close
can
as that?
yeah, so like half of Tahoe is Nevada, half of it is California. Um
Holy shit!
so that's
I
why like
never realized that. Wow.
So that's why like my town, I live in South Lake Tahoe, so I can drive east and you can tell where Nevada starts because the road immediately on the other side of that casinos are legal in Nevada too. So the state line is literally just swarmed with casinos. And so the casinos are the ones who put on the fireworks show on the water, and so we can sit
And
on their
that's for
beach.
people. That's for people that are living in Tahoe on the south side, wanting to do a bit of gambling, so they go north to.
It's we're a big tourist town, skiing, water
Oh,
stuff,
okay,
and so it's
got
big
it.
like that. But what's kind of cool is you can sit on the beach and watch across the lake and see the different fireworks shows going on from like so Tahoe is 20 miles by 12 miles, like kind of rough dimensions, and so you could see like 20 miles north. You can see fireworks shows going on over there, just like real little, like shooting off, and it's pretty neat. But I wouldn't say it's like crazy like back home in Indiana where I grew up. Yeah, people are blowing their hands off, buying illegal fireworks across state lines and doing all that stuff. So yeah, we don't have that as much, but we definitely have um, definitely have the tourism coming in. Like so, everybody
Right.
descends upon. So normally during Fourth of July, I will not leave the house usually uh, because everybody and their brother descends upon this area, and it's just absolute insanity. But we did leave this year because they were doing that air show, um, like two helicopters and people jumping out of like right on the water, like it was blowing people's tents off the beach, and they're flying up over the bushes and getting to see us air. My dad was in the Air Force, so I have like a tendency to like be
Sure.
fascinated with airplanes. So we got to go see him at the airport, and then the next day they did that thing. So we ventured out for that. Um, but anyways, all that to say, I haven't really been watching anything. Um, I'm excited. I did watch The Acolyte. I watched it on my phone while we had hikers at the house. I watched it on my phone in my bedroom with the door closed, so didn't want to be rude. So I was like, watch it on my phone. I was like, I have to watch it right now.
That's
Um,
dude. That's what I've been doing for 2 weeks. I felt obliged. I felt so obliged. It's like I can't. not do my duty to Sean. I can't not do my duty. So for the last 2 weeks, and I promised you before I left that I'd send you a voicemail, which is leading up to what we're going to talk to these guys about. But the point being is that I felt so obliged. It's like I feel as if he's doing all the work, so I've got to do some work. Of course, I'm either on a boat or I'm in the middle of nowhere, or either way, I've got to record something. And the first time wasn't so bad, but the second time was like so friggin' noisy at the marina, and I was like, I've got to send Sean something. But I've been kind of reacting to a moment that I saw on on a phone screen, and it's like, oh shit, am I really qualified to do this? But I'll do it anyway. I'll do it. Which leads on to a point. So, guys, I can't remember what I said. So, the last 2 weeks, as you know, I've been on holiday for 2 weeks, and every Wednesday I have downloaded the episode. I've burnt through my data plan. I've downloaded the episode on my phone. I've watched the episode, and then immediately sent Sean a reaction. I can't remember what I said to Sean last week. I felt it was quite cool and quite zen and quite intelligent in places, but as usual, I'm typically wrong. However, the most important point being, I can't remember what I said. So therefore, what we've agreed to do, if it's okay with you, we've agreed to play what I sent Sean last Wednesday on my initial thoughts, because of course I'm now back in the UK, albeit only by 12 hours or so. And so I've heard an awful lot of subsequent updates on my initial thoughts and people clarifying stuff. So what we thought we'd do was for your audio pleasure, play you the voicemail I left Sean, and then leave it to Sean to kind of respond in real time on his thoughts of the episode, because quite frankly, I can't remember what I said 4 days ago.
And that's what's gonna be fun about this. It's because I haven't listened to any pods, and I really haven't been engaged in any discourse. So I've been kind of, I think personally, just because I haven't wanted to engage in any of it, but also because like, oh, I've been kind of in this holding pattern. So I'm still pretty fresh on it. So this will be interesting to see how this.
I love our podcast, mate. We're absolute fucking chaos. I love it. I absolutely love it.
It's like it feels like we're doing all the wrong things, but it turns out right. You know, it's just like, it's like, hey, we don't do immediate reactions. We do delayed reactions. It's like, have you been thinking about the show? It's like, not really, but I'm going to come in a couple days later and play a voicemail and react to that. Andy's voicemail immediate reactions. All right, but anyways, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and play. I apologize for saying it was a 45-minute voicemail last episode. It was not 45 minutes. It was pretty short, and I enjoyed it. So let's get that out of the way first. All right, here we go. And here comes Andy's voicemail. 1, 2, 3, go.
Morning, buddy. It's your roving reporter from Portugal reporting in. Hopefully you can hear me okay. We're about to take the boat out, so unfortunately the marina is quite busy and noisy, so I hope I'm coming through okay. Yeah, what an episode. What an episode. I really enjoyed it. We got the flashback that we expected, albeit I somewhat didn't expect the entire episode to be the flashback. I mean, there are so many loose ends that need to be tied up still before next week's finale. I kind of didn't think we had enough time to dedicate an entire episode to another flashback, but I'm glad we did, and I'm glad we got to see not all, but a lot of the gaps filled from the original iteration. Interesting to see the Jedi originally were there for benevolent means. They weren't expecting the witches to be there. They were there to take samples. Great to see Kalnaka with a metal detector. That was funny. I'm up for that. we need to ask Rick to clear this up, but they mentioned that the planet should be desolate and barren without any life due to a hyperspace disaster. Now, if memory serves, is that some kind of reference to the High Republic novels, um, whereby some sort of hyperspace disaster was a culmination of the war with the Nile? We'll have to check out with Rick if that's the case. If so, that could be the first proper connective tissue with the novels that we've seen so far. Um, Interesting that they're actually taking samples and studying the planet, looking for a vergence. Haven't heard that term being used since the Phantom Menace, where we see Anakin himself as being called a vergence in the Force. Interesting stuff. First time we also hear a reference during this season of the term night witches. Now, whether they are or whether they aren't, the fact that Torben called them that is quite interesting. And certainly some of the stuff we see later on in the episode indicates that they certainly have very similar abilities to the Witches of Dathomir. But I digress. Sol's out and about. We see him discover the two children by the bunta tree. Again, which would indicate that they haven't been studying them for quite a while. They've actually just literally come across them by accident or by chance. And obviously he reports back to his team. Completely overreacts, suspecting they're in some kind of danger from their own family. I mean, a complete, very strange overreaction. In fact, one thing that I think that Leslie did, I'm assuming Leslie expects, who is a very, very prolific and very clever writer, I'm assuming she's kind of written the episode to for us to make the assumptions that the Jedi certainly aren't heroes. We see frailty on their part. We see emotional immaturity, certainly on Sol and Torben's part. We see this unwarranted position of entitlement that they believe that they know what's right in the universe. And I can't believe that Leslie expects us to still see them as benevolent heroes after this episode. Certainly, I don't anyway. Interesting that the witches are using an old mining site. I certainly found it strange that supposedly there's been no life on this planet for 100 years, and yet the dwelling where the witches have set up their cavern is an old mining site, which will explain it's very much in disrepair and in ruin. So that kind of covered that up for me. I found it interesting the way that Mother Isaiah, got into Torben's head and manipulated his fears, or most importantly, his desire to return home, to really manipulate him and to control him. And I thought that was quite an interesting way of going about it. But still, all the way through this, Sol is blind and pushing for this. For the team to take the children. It's really in many cases quite perverse that he has this assumption that it's right that they take the children. It's right that Osha becomes his Padawan. It's again demonstrating emotional immaturity, which will explain why he hasn't had a Padawan up until now. And Indara knows that, and in fact, there are quite a few glances I saw, or little subtle glances that she gave him, which demonstrate that I don't think she not so much trusts him as she knows how volatile he is at this moment in time, and somewhat a loose cannon. Anyway, moving on. It was interesting that May lies as well during her test, which we kind of assumed. But the fact is that Sol doesn't want to push it. He lets her go willingly without pushing it, unlike when Osha went through her test or her trials, where he manipulated the situation that she would pass. Because again, he very much appealed to her own desires and manipulated the situation so that she would pass. Again, really, really messed up. Everyone must be sacrificed, which was an expression that the witches used during the ceremony or prior to the ceremony, and I think that's where Sol really did misinterpret where they were coming from, um, and decided to interfere. Um, the fact that the council said no is interesting. The fact that both Torben and Sol defied the council. They got no problem at all defying the council for what they believe is right. Again, this heightened sense of entitlement or superiority that they have, which very much came over during this episode. Interesting that they talked about May and Osha being one conscious across two bodies. Really, really interesting. Begs the question: if something traumatic or something even deadly happens to one of them, what happens to the other? Are they codependent? Down to the very fact of their very existence, their life. Are they codependent that way? That'll be certainly an interesting spin on their relationship, or again their codependence. Torben loses it, completely loses it, and decides for himself that if he can take children and take them back to Coruscant, then he can prove the divergence in the Force and go home. So defies all orders. I mean, it's pretty chaotic, right? The amount of lack of discipline that these guys have got is astounding. Anyway, he goes off. Sol chases after him, but obviously colludes with him when it comes down to thinking what is best, and they then set forth to grab the kids. I mean, what an asshole. Anyway, Mother Coral, as we suspected, stirs things up. Very aggressive. She gets both May to destroy the workings of the mining site door, but also start stirring the witches up and getting them prepped for battle. She's right at the heart of all of this. We don't interestingly see her at the end of the episode, at the end of the flashback, which may well lean nicely to your and my theory that she's still afoot and still can play part of the current day situation that we may or may not see in the finale. Sol kills Mother Anastasia when all she was doing was trying to protect May and prevent the battle that was then to commence. I mean, it was what the hell? I mean, what the hell? I mean, talk about lack of control. Talk about lack of discipline. I mean, how he even became a Jedi, demonstrating these kind of characteristics, is beyond me. But yeah, certainly Sol is not the hero of this season, for sure. Interesting to see that it wasn't Torben and it was Kilnaka in the end that was controlled by the witches. I thought it would be a reverse on that, being that Torben seemingly is so weak-minded. But no, it's Kilnaka that we end up being controlled by the witches and kicking off with an almighty saber battle. Seeing him throw down with that green saber and then to carry on with his fists was pretty awesome. And of course, that was then that connection with the witches, or control from the witches, was broken by Indara. One thing that I couldn't work out, and I was somewhat disappointed with, was that it seemed that in breaking the connection between Kalnaka and the witches, it seemed to kill the witches, which I was a bit disappointed about. I thought they were stronger than that, shall I say? I don't want to say that they seem weak, but it certainly seems bizarre that an individual Jedi using her mind to break their influence on her colleague seemed to kill them. Or is there something else afoot there that we're not aware of? But it just seems to be that she managed to kill them in pushing back. Bizarre. Interesting that we saw Sol choosing to save Osha as opposed to May. Now, he was put in an impossible position and he was trying to save both at the time, but the fact that he purposely saved Osha over May demonstrates really the obsession that he has with this feeling that her destiny lies with him, and um, she should be his apprentice, which is interesting. Um, and then lastly, obviously, it wraps up with the lie. And one of the things that I'm really surprised about is that was the most benevolent and the most controlling, the most controlled, or the most leveled Jedi of all of them, Indara, creating this almighty lie. We saw that May did not purposely start the fire. She was trying to set fire to Osha's book, and that was it. It was I'm assuming, the fuel or the gas within the lantern itself that created the fire once she dropped it. The fact that she was happy to create this elaborate lie that Osha would then live her life, or would shape Osha's subsequent life with the Jedi, I found really, really bizarre. Anyway, mate, lots to think about. Still quite a few threads that haven't been tied up yet. For example, we didn't get to see anything of Amir and his history with the Jedi, in particular those scars that he got on his back, which seemed to kind of make the decision for him to leave the Order. Didn't see any of that this week. While I did expect some flashbacks, I didn't expect it exclusively to be 16 years ago on that planet. So if indeed Leslie is planning this or designed this to be either a standalone series or one of many seasons potentially, unfortunately, I got a feeling that we're going to see some of the loose ends not tied up by the end of this finale next week, unless of course it's extended finale, and we get a lot more time to be able to kind of tie those up in a nice little bow, with a nice little bow. Don't know, mate. Don't know, but I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm glad that some of the easy way outs they could have taken weren't taken. If you know what I mean. The fact is that the Jedi aren't good. The Jedi didn't do the right thing. The fact that they disobeyed orders. The fact that they are clearly demonstrating their hubris and their arrogance here. And like I say, I keep repeating myself, their emotional maturity, I think is really, really good. It could have been just an accident. It could have been just the witches that had created the issue, and that is not the case. So I'm really happy that they went down that line to give us that kind of ambiguity, and to give it and to question who our real heroes are in this season or this series. Anyway, mate, really looking forward to catching up with you next week when I'm back in the UK. We're off now on the boat for a while, so it'll be a while till I can catch up with you again. Hope you're well. Look after yourself. Give my love to Madison, and like I said, really looking forward to talking about not only the finale but the whole series with you next week. Look after yourself, buddy. Bye now.
God, he can talk.
So let me address the elephant in the room, and let me ask you a question. Are those hand dryers that we hear in the background?
No, they're cranes and stuff, moving stuff around in the marina. That's
See, I thought you were sitting outside of a public restroom or something, and that was the sound of everybody drying their hands.
No. No, it's a working marina. So there's a lot of stuff going on. So I just have to find somewhere quiet as best I can, which ironically had to be it was actually an Irish pub, so it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad.
That sounded good. So I took some Andy style notes as it was playing, so I could have stepped through those. I thought I enjoyed the hyperspace disaster reference as well. I assume that's talking about like the great hyperspace disaster from the High Republic books.
Well, I was going to say subsequently, this is the reason why I was quite keen to remember what I thought last Wednesday, because my thoughts last Wednesday were literally as soon as I'd seen it, and subsequently I've obviously listened to Rick's catch up and Paul's as well, and a few other folk that know that media, and they've pretty much said, "Oh, this is a really cool callback
Yeah.
to those times. So I don't think we need it legitimized anymore. But it's kind of cool that I got my thoughts aligned with the
Yeah.
facts.
Yeah. So yeah, that was cool. That was a cool callback. I thought it was interesting that Anasea was the one who manipulated Torben. That was an interesting thing because I would have thought it would be Mother Coral. I thought it was gonna be that. You mentioned something about like the breaking of the witches from Kalnaka, and it's interesting that you took it as that they died. I thought they just like passed out. That's like still. I mean, I haven't listened to anything, so that's still my continued thought. It's like, oh, it just like knocked them all out, and that they're not all actually dead, except for
And
Anasea.
the explosion at the end was what wiped them out. I'd be okay with that, but at the time when I watched it, I was like, shit, what? They all just passed. they all just like, well, so it's like a over dramatized kind of, oh, we've passed out now.
But
It was really weird.
well, I think there's like this. I kind of made this point on a couple different things, but I'll mention it now. Um, I think I think there's more. I think there's still more that we're not fully seeing about what happened.
Yeah.
I know that I know just from like the little bit of conversation I've seen in our Discord and stuff, um, and I'm sure people are talking about it as well. It's like about Soul, basically Soul being an asshole. I still think there is more, either good or bad, about Saul that we're not getting. I think he's purposely. I don't want to say being misrepresented, um, but I think there's still a more complex situation, including the pre-existing relationship with him and Indara. The reason why he doesn't have a Padawan. I think there's more to that situation with him and Osha. Like, I think it's currently being led in that like he's grossly overstepping, um, in a negative way. Not that I think he's all good. I don't mean to say it that way, but I'm just like my gut is telling me it's like they are intentionally kind of doing a red herring with Saul being like, oh, he's just kind of indignant and impulsive and a real piece of shit. Um, I think they're doing that intentionally. I think we're going to get revealed what actually happened and what's actually going on, and like the motivations or
Oh,
the
I love that.
rationale behind a lot of it. Um, I
Sorry,
don't know. I don't.
can I
Yeah,
interrupt
go
that?
ahead.
I love that. So the first flashback we saw was one side of or one perception. The second time we saw it was another perception or somebody else's side of the story, and then the reality is somewhere in the middle. I love that idea. I guess the only thing I would say is that would land really well if we had more time. But it's the finale next week.
What?
I love that. I love that. I love that concept. And in fact, our buddy Turbo has talked about the idea of each flashback being from someone's point of view or from someone's perspective, and somewhere in the middle is the reality. And I love that. But do we have time
Well, I think
to tell that story?
that's kind of the no. No, I think you're spot on, and I think that's maybe where some of my disappointment is coming from. I don't want to. I think that's a strong word, but because I think I went into this show with the expectations based on what kind of Leslie Headland and Star Wars and Lucasfilm have put out about like, oh, but now I'm reading between the lines more about. I was expecting it to be like a one season, one and done, and with the
Mm,
possibility of being expanded. But I
mm.
think they've misrepresented intentionally, so people go into it without the expectation of being multiple. But I think we are absolutely getting a season two. I think they are not. I think they're being truthful in saying that. Oh, Leslie Headland originally wrote the treatment as a single season story,
Mm.
but I think when it came time to filming, they already knew this is going to be a multiple season thing. Yeah, her original treatment was one season, but then it was changed, and now but they've went with that story the whole time. So people didn't, so they expected it to be buttoned up. But I think we are now at that point where it's like, oh no, they are absolutely doing multiple seasons because there's like I'm not gonna harp on the train of like there's just not enough time to wrap it all up in one episode. It's like I'm sure everybody's harping on that already, and it's like no, they
Oh, there
have to do
is.
multiple seasons.
No. I mean, there is time to make it a very simple, straightforward story. But I think that, from my point of view, and I don't want to speak for you, but I think the reason why you and I have been invested so much is that the possibilities are really quite interesting.
Yeah,
Really, really quite interesting. And so I don't believe there's certainly no coincidence. The reason why episode 7 has been directed by the same person that directed episode 3. The flashbacks have been directed by one person. Maybe that same person is also, there's an extended cut of what was filmed, which they've said once they got to a position where they said, actually, I want to drag this out to a second season, they might use that later to put more flesh on the bone, as it were. But I mean, I'm not in any way disappointed, but like you, I want it to be deeper. I kind of want it to be more, it to be more complicated than perhaps the obvious.
I mean, I love multiple seasons and more content. I'm always in that thing. I think they've created such a rich story that I will be. I think I was disappointed. I'm disappointed in that they've like made it seem like we're going to get a buttoned up one season story, like a tight, deep type story. But I think they've kind of diluted it a little bit the last couple episodes to be like, okay, if they do try to button this up in one episode, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to swallow. There's just because there's just so
Yeah.
much, and like I think it's deeper than like because there's always times where it's like, oh, you can flesh that out with books and comics and supplementary materials, and I think there's too much there to
Yeah.
lean on those. Like, so that's why I'm fully in the camp of like, oh, there's a season 2, and they've known, um, but they've wanted to kind of keep that a secret because they didn't want people to be like, nothing's gonna happen because there's gonna be a season 2, and plus that's a nice announcement for a future event from the business side of things. Um, I don't want to say disappointment's a strong word. I don't want to say I don't mean it like I'm disappointed.
No.
It's like
Hey, listen, we
because I still love the show. I still love the show, and I'm very excited for it.
but even if you didn't, we don't do this. We don't do the negative stuff. It's
Yeah,
fine. It's absolutely fine. And I
well,
know that there's some really good friends of ours that haven't quite felt about it the way that we feel about it. And I also know there are folks that we love that have felt strongly or have really loved this series. Sorry, this season versus other Star
yeah,
Wars projects that have come out in recent years. So this is the beauty of what we do. It's like it doesn't have to be tip top perfect. I mean, we can still analyze this and criticize it
yeah.
and constructively to be, but and yet still really enjoy it. I mean, I don't know. I'm having a blast. I really am.
Same. And I think your point, like what you're saying about Turbo, is that's kind of where my mentality is on it. It's that like that last flashback I think was from like an Indara and Torben perspective, and I think Saul they still have as a mystery. We don't know any of his intentions, and I think they've done that purposely from a storytelling device to say like we've never seen things from his perspective. Like, except for like him walking through the woods, but I've always felt like that was like a drone kind of out of body
Unless
kind of.
unless we're seeing, because the way that episode 6 ended, which is I will not let you go until you hear my side of the story, and then we have the flashback episode. This is Saul's perception of what happened, in which case he is in his mind done the most awful things that he shouldn't have done, which automatically puts us as the viewing audience in a critical position when we consider him. But it's down to his perception of his actions. It's very easy for all of us that have done something bad to almost flagellate ourselves with what we've done, and to over index on the relevance, the importance, but also the heinous actions that we've done. And again, the reality of what happened may well be actually something somewhere between the two. I don't know. I don't know, mate. But
I think that's what they want. Yes, I think that's what they
if it's
want
a
us to think. But I
if it's a
think
if
if it's Saul, then I think he will give, when we do get Saul's real perspective, I think he's going to, like, it's gonna be, it's like I keep talking about the Memento thing. It's like I think we're gonna get that clarity when we do get Saul's
okay,
internal side of things, where he's going, because they at some point in time they're going to have to justify or give Saul's perspective on what he means by he feels connected to OSHA. And I think that is going to all of a sudden magically align a lot of puzzle pieces. Like, and
yeah,
be like,
because that
not necessarily justify his actions, but be like, this is the piece of the puzzle. This is the linchpin that makes everything, put everything into motion.
yeah, because that original, what we saw this week, sorry, last week now, sorry, what we saw last week, um, was really weird and unhealthy.
Yeah.
This obsession with this belief that he had, or this vision that he had, that she should be his Padawan. It's like, all right, son, calm down. This is not right. So you could be right. Let me ask. So with that in mind, let me ask you a question. Do you reckon there are two versions of the Acolyte that were filmed? And I don't mean in the same way that that Rogue One was filmed, and that Solo were filmed, and due to editorial or change of directors that they changed that. Do you reckon there are two versions? One that was originally conceived or storyboarded as a standalone episode, a standalone season, as a series in its own right, as one season, and then the powers that be said, this is really quite juicy. Go ahead with your idea for 4 seasons, for example, Leslie. And as a result, there is stuff that has been filmed that may well find its way into a second season now, that would have been that would have been included in season 1 had it been standalone. So, for example, rather than a average of 30 minutes or 35 minutes per episode, we'd have seen 45 minutes per episode. But because the execs thought there was something juicy here, let's turn it into 2 seasons and use some of that content in season 2. So it's a long way of me trying to ask the question, do you think there's season 2? I do. There's got to be.
I absolutely think there's a season 2, but to answer your question more granularly, I think the original treatment was a single story and a narrative about the complexities of a situation and the casting of decisions and impulsiveness and the Jedi and things. But then I think that story was, they took 2/3 of that story and said, we can expand on this and make it multiple seasons. And I think they're using 2/3 of it and have added things like this vergence. I still believe that this like creating of life stuff was not part of the original story. And I think it's going to be connected to Plagueis and Snoke and Anakin, yada yada yada. I think, and I think that stuff was added. I think it was originally like a High Republic standalone, good, evil, people fucking up, making mistakes. But then I think if they've added this extra third and bolting on and I don't say dragging it out in a negative way, but I absolutely think it's going to be multiple seasons.
I like that, and the reason why I like that is because at the moment I'm enjoying myself. I like the story. I like the fact that I'm speculating more than any other story that I've seen, because everything else has been pretty much not cookie cutter, but relatively linear. let's say linear, so therefore it's quite easy to. There's no speculation of things that have gone on in the past, and so therefore, I like your idea because at the moment, despite how much I loving this, I can't see $180 million being spent, and I don't mean that as a criticism as to what I've got. I'm just thinking of I'm trying to think pragmatically as to where $180 million was spent, unless somebody's got a massive paycheck out of it.
Honestly, I believe season 2's already been filmed. I think they filmed it all
all
together.
That's kind of my point. I think that's exactly the point I'm trying to get to, is that if we're talking about $180 million season that was, let's say, 45 to 50 minutes long per episode, that was a standalone story, then yes, I can see 180. I can see $180 million. If you're saying that actually it's $180 million, but there was so much goodness or richness in that story that needed telling more, so they've decided to shrink the season 1 content to leverage an awful lot of that in season 2, plus extra content that will take the overall production cost down significantly, but create more equity for viewers in the overall series. That would make sense to me.
I mean, because if you zoom, because I can tell you now, they didn't spend $180 million on CGI. That last episode, like,
no, some of it was dodgy.
Critical.
Yeah,
some of that was just the stuff with the ships was just absolute dog shit. And I'm not normally one to say that. I'm usually very like, oh, it's all fine. It's like there was one scene in there particular. I'm like, dude, this should have been cut. Like, this is
not good. I'm cool with that as long as the story's good. The first week, the first week that I was away, I don't know if you picked up on my point about the Kamir's lightsaber when
it didn't glow on the face.
It was really, really weird. It was really there was absolutely no real world or there was no reflection of that saber against either Kamir or the surrounding areas.
No directional
surrounding area kind of stuff. And it was like, whoa, that's really odd. It looked quite old school, which maybe that's the impact they tried to achieve, but it seemed quite crude in these days.
And if we to your point a minute ago, if we zoom out, like if we want to put a different hat on, like we like to do, if you zoom out, I believe season 2 has already been filmed. I think it was all collectively filmed. I think the episodes could have been longer. It may have even been one season. But if you look at it, we had the strikes, we had multiple issues come up. It's like, okay, can we recut this down, rejigger it a little bit to be 2 seasons, buy us time for more content to be written, created. Look at everything else that's been pushed out.
And of course, it was filmed in the UK as well. It was also filmed in the UK as well, which wasn't under the same kind of diligence of the strikes that you guys had over there. So it was easier to produce content in the UK during the strikes because, of course, an awful lot of the local actors aren't in the same union, and writers and production staff and so on and so forth. So you could be right, or to my point, is that they had a really, really bloated season 1, which is an all-encompassing season 1. It's like there's too much here, there's too much good stuff here to contain it within one season. Let's just spread the whole thing out, because our slate after this doesn't actually look that good. And let's be honest with each other. We are very positive as people, but the slate after this does not look great. It doesn't look great, and so if they've done an awful lot of the hard work already, then great. Let's spread it out into another season next year, which needs expanding on, and hopefully will create. So at the end of the finale next week, if it's, I have no idea what the runtime is. Literally, like I said, I've got into the UK this morning, so I've got no idea. I haven't looked it up, but if the runtime is a similar is similar to the rest of the episodes. We may find ourselves in a position where they simply don't have time to wrap it all up, and so the powers that be said, "Well, don't. Let's use some of the content you've already got, plus add some more, which takes our 180, or let's say, 360 if it was 2 seasons, but actually makes it $240 million because we've already got half the content for the second season anyway. Just putting my business brain to it, it makes sense. It makes an absolute sense.
Well,
I like the story. I really like the story.
Yeah, and none of this is negative. It's like I love the story, and it's just kind of like peeking behind the curtain of like, okay, how did we get here? Because to some of those other points, like I talked about Soul being kind of misrepresented. Like we haven't talked about the Indara kind of and Soul conflict. They're friends, but there is definitely something that's been going on in the past.
Yeah.
You made a comment about you can't like the council saying no. I don't think she contacted the council. I don't think she ever contacted him. I think she just came in and says the council said no. Like, because I think there is not a mistrust, but I think based on some of the other behavior, I think she made a decision and lied to him and said, like, the council said no. And they're like, oh, I can't believe that. It's like, yeah, I don't think she ever contacted him. And I think that's some of the stuff that we'll eventually get to, because I think there's a general vibe of like something is off in every scene that we see. Like, I hate to put it this way, but it's like the closer they are to that planet or that vergence or whatever this is, the weirder everything is. Everybody's behavior, the perceptions of reality, the people's actions. And I almost wonder if that's what they're leading to, of like, oh, this vergence on the planet or in the area, whether that has to do with that hyperspace disaster or it's just a general force related thing. People are doing weird stuff or have weird perceptions of reality the closer they are to this thing, whether it's people acting super evil, like and flipping out, or Jedi acting in weird ways. There's something with that tree that like is still kind of just floating in background every once in a while. Like, oh yeah, by the way, there's this tree that's just, it's magic, but don't worry about it. And I think that like that adds like a lot of this like layer of whenever people are close to this planet in proximity or this vergence, just even the way it's filmed at times is just, it's odd. Like there's odd interactions between people. People are, I don't know. It's because it's very interesting how it all plays out. And so I don't believe Indara ever contacted the council. The whole, like, I think there's more to this, like Torben being, I think Torben is being scapegoated right now. Like even his behavior of like, I gotta get the hell out of here and just run. And like, I get wanting to go home, but like, it's still very like a Vanilla Sky, dream worldy, like people's just kind of infantile and impulsive behaviors. And so I think there's going to be more complexity to that added as well.
I hope so, because if you consider it, 6 years later, he's made a Jedi Master, and then for 10 years he goes into a trance. So I hope that is explained a little bit when, at the moment, I wouldn't have him washing my windows. And
I'm firm in that stance of like, in the real world, if somebody junior does something like that, they put their ass to the grindstone. Like, you're not going to be protected by your higher ups. And so that to me, that screams like, we're not seeing how things really were clearly. There's more to that story. Or Indara and Soul and others did stuff just as egregious. So they're all in this like, this kind of standoff of like, well, we all really screwed up here. So we all have to protect the whole situation. Because if it's just Torben acting like a child, dude, you've been in the corporate world long enough. Like, dude, he'd be gone. Like, that stuff rolls downhill. Anasea getting killed, like, even that is just, there's just a bizarro kind of like, oh, she's trying to protect May, so I'm gonna like ghost myself over there, it's like I still believe that we're seeing it from somebody's perspective, and that like there's still something twisted with what was happening, because it's just like there's something weird. You could have just force pushed her or
Yeah.
done something, but this whole like, woo, I'm gonna do the super slow ghost move to like Dementor
Yeah.
myself over there, but then I still get stabbed. There's just like something odd about it. Like I don't know if it's like the Virgins making things weird, or if there's like a puppet master like pulling strings and manipulating the situation, which it could be. I don't know if Soul is a good guy or like gonna end up being the big bad, but I think that's where they want us to be. I just think there's something off. There's a lot of red herrings. I think where they're trying to make us think things emotionally, that they're going to slowly continue to unravel as we get more perspectives, which is really cool. I like it. I've been under this mindset of like, we're going to get an ending. And my ADHD brain doesn't like to be told all of a sudden. It's like, just kidding. We get season 2. It's like, I'm excited for more content, but damn
Fuck
it.
you.
I was
you.
really hoping we'd get that ending.
Yeah.
You son of a, and and I just really don't like those like Lost style, cliffhangers where it's like something big and dramatic. It's like, find out on season 2 of The Acolyte. It's like, you asshole. Like, I just want to know, like, I don't like
Well,
those
especially
big
when we
cliffhangers.
don't, especially when we don't know what the slate looks like. Sorry, what the slate looks like these days for Lucasfilm. It's not a case of we're already filming
Exactly.
season 2 and we can get it. You know, we know that there's going to be this time next year. We'll get the answers that we need. It's yeah, that would be raw and kind of gutting.
Because it's also very fresh in my mind too. I'll wrap this up really quick too, because I did watch something. We finally finished that season 1 of the Shantaram show on Apple TV. It completely divulges from the book. Madison's like, this is totally different, and you know what? It ends on a cliffhanger. It doesn't end, and then they cancel the freaking show. So Madison and I are pissed. We didn't look any of it up. I watched it because she read the book, and so it's like we get no answers. So maybe it's a little fresh in my mind, that frustration of like, cool, nice. So now we have no idea what happens. So yeah, I did watch that, and it made us very angry. Final thing.
I guess the one thing with Star Wars is that even if there is no continuation and they do wrap it up but don't tie up a lot of the loose ends, they've got a franchise there that they can use it in a different time frame, in a different place. So there may well be some cool. I mean, we've seen in Mandalorian, maybe not quite as well as I'd like it to have been done, but we've seen references to the sequel trilogy in the Mando time frame. And at some point, maybe with the Filoni film, I don't know.
I'm just very excited that there's a new era, and there's a lot weighing on it. I don't want to see
get
whooshed out.
Yeah, and I hope that there's not too much connective sinew or tissue between what we're seeing now and the Mandoverse, because the money guys see the Mandoverse as being the way forward. But there are always means around. There's always a way around explaining what you and I are looking for. So I certainly hope it's not in the written or the comic media, but
please
but
don't
yeah,
be another audio drama. Not an audio drama.
Please. Yeah, no, don't do that, guys. Please don't do that. No, it's cool. It's cool. I just I my mind is in two places at the moment. We've either got a very, very short amount of time next week to keep this satisfying and wrapping up everything, or they do the bold thing, and it's to be continued. And I hope to be continued in my current state of mind. I hope that is the option that they take next week.
Or they just all die. They just all die.
Or they all die.
Soul just kills everybody, and he's like, well, time to run. The end.
Yes, I've had my revenge of the Sith. He looks at the camera, throws the horns. Yeah. You know.
Now there is no hope. God.
Until the next
But,
new one.
Yes, exactly. Oh, but yeah, I'm excited for it. I think I'll feel better just once next week's. I think I'll be happy no matter what happens next week. It's just like knowing. I just want to know, like, are they gonna just ramrod it all into 30 minutes and be like, dead, 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 and it's all over. Cover up, cover up, cover up, and they were all actually just dicks. It's like, okay, cool. Like whatever. We'll figure it out. Or is
Yeah, I'm
it
with you,
gonna
man.
be yeah. But I'm excited nonetheless. We only got a couple days and I'm excited to talk about it. But yeah, season 2, in my opinion, is definitely coming. The cover up at the end, I think it's still part of that like weirdness and like whose perspective are we seeing from, and yeah.
Yeah, I have to say I'm really enjoying it. I'm
Same.
really enjoying it. Is it as involved? Am I involved as I was with Andor? No. Because Andor in many ways plays to an awful lot of what I like about good drama, but also what I like about Star Wars, which isn't about the Force, which isn't about all of this mystical stuff that, quite frankly, is in many cases I find quite pompous and for the people that are portrayed to wield it, and the rest of it. But it's got me thinking, and there's very few new Star Wars
I like thinking.
properties properties that have made me thought about. I found, for example, I know that Ahsoka didn't land with an awful lot of people, but what I liked about Ahsoka the most, as you know, is the story of what happened with Balin and Shin, and it's like that really that those their roles and their purpose and their motivations really appeal to me more than the main story, a lot more than the main story. And while we have good friends of ours that love the whole Thrawn thing, it was really them that really tugged at my interest. And the same applies here as well. Is that I'm not particularly invested in one particular individual, although there's a Wookiee Jedi, so I'm clearly going to navigate that way in the first place. But the point being is that it's just thinking about what could be and what could be and where it could take us. I think I've thought about this more than anything else I've watched under the Star Wars property, because it's been so new, and that's the reason why I respect it. And I said to everyone that maybe I speak to friends of mine that watch Star Wars and they like some stuff and they don't like other stuff, and a few of them don't like this stuff, and it's like, well, because it's not laid out for you, you've got to speculate, you've got to kind of work out what's going on, and that's why I like it, and that's not for them, and I'm cool with that. I'm absolutely cool with that. Things that are a little bit more straightforward, and indeed, if we think that the skeleton crew is going to be a very, very different type of different take on Star Wars and different type of demographic, then that's fine. I hope to enjoy that equally as much. But I'm really enjoying it, and I respect folks, folks that don't perhaps enjoy it as much as I do. But I'm somewhat sad that I seem to be one of a few people that enjoy it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's not a means to an end, and it's not filler kind of like means to an end filler Star Wars where the end, beginning and end, and just fill in the gaps. Like, this has so much potential, and I respect that a lot of people don't like that. Like, but I do. It's like
I love the idea. I love the idea that our heroes may not be our heroes, and in fact, who we assume is going to be our hero may not be our hero. And in fact, they may be the worst people of all, which is something that I've always thought about the the hypocrisy of the Jedi in the first place. Is this whole elitism shit is just not in my camp, and therefore I found it quite interesting in the first in the first place since
Well, it's
the
Star Wars
prequels. But
branching into new genres is what it is. And some
yeah,
people don't want that.
yeah. But maybe our hero is the bad guy, and that seems to be the case in this
And you
place.
have to wait. You have to wait to
Yeah.
find out too.
Yeah.
And you have to feel things. Some of them you may not like. Some you can't just come in and know and expect things and then just get flashy, bang bang, which is fine. If you don't like that, then you don't like it. I mean, I know there'd be people like if you took a Pacific Rim movie and they decide to make it more deep and give it a backstory, and people be like, well, wait a minute, I'm just here to watch robots beat the crap out of each other. It's like, that's fine.
Exactly.
But
exactly. No, it's good times, and I'm looking forward to speaking to you now only in 3 days, when we can kind of sum up the finale and the whole season as a whole, and maybe speculate about hopefully a potential future, not only for this particular season, but whether we think. I mean, in my mind, I respect it for what it is, and that's something different. That doesn't rely on the Skywalkers, that doesn't rely on our heroes, we don't know who our heroes are. I love that shit. Absolutely love that shit. But dude, it's I need to go because it is the last evening that I'm spending with my daughters before we all go back to work tomorrow. So, mate, I'm well stoked you and I got a chance to talk. And we're well over the normal time as well, which is pretty good going, bearing in mind I've not watched anything for the last 2 weeks.
Same.
Or spoken to anyone for the last 2 weeks. Mate, I will catch you in 3 days' time, where hopefully we'll be extremely full from being fed some great stuff. And
I'll be full of it like always.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I was about to make a snide comment, but I can't really talk, can I? Anyway, mate, it's wonderful to speak to you again. I'm so glad to speak to you again after 2 weeks. Look after yourself, and I'll speak to you on Wednesday. And thank you, everyone, as usual, for listening. All three of you.
Literally dozens of
Dude,
us.
take us out, mate.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you to Ed and Chris for last week. I really appreciate it. It was awesome. I look forward to doing that again. Thank you to Andy to coming back and talking with me again. Thank you to Andy's family for letting him step away for this whole time. You guys know where to find us, justchillin.com, blah, blah, blah. Until next week, until 3 days from now, it's been fun. Bye.
Goodbye now. Take care. Look after yourselves. Peace.
Bye.